Welcome to another Boulevard Paper Fight unboxing. Again, I'm going to go through a sealed evaluation of a Worlds Collide deck, and I'm going to do it in the format I did last time because last opening I basically chose a different way to look and analyze the deck, and I got a really good response from people, and they really enjoyed that breakdown. So I'm going to do that again with this deck here today. So let's see what treasures the Crucible has bestowed upon us. Okay, so we have Brobnar Untamed Dis. A lot of Brobnar lately. This is my fourth in a row. Arharm Mance Phony. Oh, that's a very interesting name. Let's see what's in store. So of course, I'm going to do my regular kind of unboxing, unveiling, and then we'll go into the breakdown. So I'll put down the Archon card. This is a new thing I want to do now, is just for a little bit of extra flavor, is put down the houses that correspond with it. We got Untamed, we got Brobnar, and of course we have Dis. So there we are. All the fun houses. I really like these stickers. Thank you, Sky Jedi. Okay, so let's go through what we got here. So first up we have Ganger Chieftain. Ooh. Ganger Chieftain. Grok. Irestaff. Mog Hunter. Narp, of course. Stiltkin. Tremor. Gargantus Crapper, Power of Fire, the Flex, Ragnarok. Oh, that's pretty cool. And then we move on to Dis with Binding Irons, Draining Touch, Harbinger, Infernus, Not Finished With You, Not Finished With You, EE on the Fringes, Three Fates, Eater of the Dead, Orb of Invidious, Snaglet. And now on to Untamed with Bramblelinks, Harmonia, Imprinted Murmuk, Keycharge, Morphine, Fittest, Unnatural Selection, Flaxia, Gibbuk, and Nepetica Gigantica. Yeah, this deck is not impressive on first blush whatsoever. Alright, so I'm going to do my usual thing, which is let's first count creatures. I think that is the most important thing to look at right from the get-go, because it's going to give you an idea of the composition of your deck, of what board state you can create. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Okay. 21 creatures. Now let's see the Ember Pips. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So there's 7 Ember Pips, not a lot. You're going to be relying on your board to generate Ember, but there's also some burst potential here. So, let's do the usual, of course. The standard way of looking at this is we look at how do we control Ember here. Morphine somewhat counts because it can wipe their board. Then we have Snaglet as a potential way. EE on the Fringes, that's 2, 3, 4. 5 and 6. I like that these 3 are together. So we got 6 creatures that can basically, or 6 cards that are going to be able to control Ember. None in Untamed, no surprise there, which is okay. I guess Morphine somewhat counts, but not really. Now let's look at the actual board control. I really dislike this card, Nepetica Gigantica. I think it is stupid that it does not have an Ember Pip. Like, look at this. So you just get to use an artifact that stuns. Like, why would you not give an Ember Pip to play this? Because I don't care about this card. Let's look at board control. So we have Unnatural Selection. I don't really count Bramble-Links. I would count Orb of Invidious. It's going to also affect you. And with having a lot of creatures that need to reap, this is probably not going to be something that you play that often. It's really going to come in handy if you're going against a Saurian or Star Alliance where they're going to rely on reaping abilities to do things. You may want to use it to slow them down, but again, you're also going to be affecting yourself, so you have to take that into consideration. So this is an iffy one. 3 Fates we got. Harbinger of Doom, Draining Touch. Ragnarok. For the remainder of the turn, creatures cannot reap, and you gain 1 Ember whenever a friendly creature fights. At the end of the turn, destroy each creature. That's kind of cool. I mean, with the Orb of Invidious, this could actually be kind of beneficial for a Brobnar Burst. And you can even use the Flex as well. So that's kind of cool if you're going to wipe and then have the Flex. I think some cool things are there. Sacrifice a friendly creature. If you do, each player loses half. Yeah, that's not what we're talking about here. So we got Gargantua Scrapper as well. I would count Tremor as board control because you're able to stun. Mog Hunter provides some, and then Ganger Chieftain because you're going to be able to fight with something right away. So those are some all very good options. So pretty good board control in this. Now let's do the breakdown like I did before. Okay, so what do we have in store here? First off, this card I could really care less about. Gibbok, same thing. Not super excited about that card. In fact, it says discard the top card of your deck if it's a creature. If it's a creature after Gibbok leaves play, put that creature into play under Gibbok's position in your battle line. Honestly, there are things in this deck that I want to have playabilities. For example, Flaxia. I do not want to be risking Gibbok making like an Infernus or Flaxia or Ganger Chieftain come out without getting that ability in effect, because those are things that I feel are crucial to this deck. The only way I would actually want to play Gibbok is if I'm holding my Flaxias and I know I'm going to be able to play them and get that effect, as well as things like the Harmonias. If it's playing them, going to give me Ember from the board state. So those are the only reasons why I would even consider playing Gibbok. I think most of the time, Gibbok's going to be just discarded for me. I do not like that. Another way it could be used, I guess, if you know you don't have any of your potent cards in the way, is with the Unnatural Selection. Because you could have Unnatural Selection basically get rid of your board, including Gibbok, and then have something else come into play. But you are discarding a card, so it is a risk. I do also like these 2 Harmonias because there is a decent amount of creatures here. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 creatures in Untamed, so that's pretty good. And I mean, you have the potential of doing double Harmonia with the Flaxia, so that's like, for 1, you're basically gaining, 2 Ember from Flaxia? Yeah, so you gain 2 Ember from Flaxia, 2 Ember from Harmonia. That's 4 Ember just from playing those, and if you played both Harmonias and you were below the limit, that's basically a key, so you can get your key charge off really nicely in that manner. So I really like the way that kind of comes together. I think it's really cool. And I also do like the fittest in this. I think your Brobnar creatures are some you want to make a little bit more powerful, so they have a little bit more staying power on the board, and this helps create that position. So all in all, a really helpful card for a few things in the game and in this deck. Moving on to House Dis now. So we have Snaglet. It is a rare card, so you don't see it as often. I do like this card because it has an action ability that says choose a house. If your opponent chooses that house as their active house on their next turn, steal 2. So this can be very helpful for a number of ways. One, if they have you cannot steal in play, this card is useless. But if they do have the ability for you to, just use this normally, you're basically going to be able to do something like, okay, I know their Ember control is mainly in this house, so I'm in check. If I have to say you cannot choose this house, or if you choose this house, I'm going to steal 2, it actually puts you further ahead in check. Now, keep in mind, there are also other cards in the game that if you do this, and say if you choose this house, that you steal 2, you could actually set yourself up for a worse effect. For example, Ronnie, if you're at 5 or you're at 6 and they choose shadows, so you go up to 8 and they use Ronnie to steal 2 to advance themselves. I mean, they're putting them neutral, so that's not the best one, but I mean, too much to protect, sorry. They could go too much to protect, then into a Ronnie. That's the line I was thinking of. So you gotta be wary of that. And then also cutthroat research, because then you're gonna go to 8, and cutthroat research is now in effect. So you have to be aware of the pitfalls that exist if you are choosing a house as well. It's not just a matter of where the Ember control is if you allow them to choose something that's going to allow them to get even more in the end, then it kind of negates it. Because, I mean, the cutthroat, sure, you go to 8 and then they get it back. It's nulling it. So you got to keep that in mind. The next card here is Orb of Invidious. I talked about this already. This card, I feel, could be a trap. If you can get into a fight state, it could be very good, but you need to be very careful because there's no way for you to get rid of this card once you've played it. So once it hits the board, you're really putting yourself in a position of potentially being stuck. But one cool thing is if you can drop it late game and then do your Ragnarok play, that could be really handy because you could actually burst up and then now slow things down, and you're fighting and you're also causing the board to wipe. It could be a very potent finishing move. But, I mean, I don't think there's any archiving in this deck. No, there isn't. There's no archiving. So you're not going to be able to set that up the same way. So just be aware that this combo exists. And I think that it's kind of one of those things where you don't really play for it, like to hold it. It's kind of like if it comes at the right time and all the cards line up, that is something that you can have as a tool to your advantage. Eater of the Dead. Purge a creature from a discard pile. If you do, put a +1 power counter. I mean, with the double Infernus, this is basically going to create a way for you to really start purging your opponent's deck. Now, you have to be very, very cognizant of doing this because you may not want to create that. I mean, I would even consider using it against my own deck for a card, for example, like Narp, that I maybe not want on the board or to recycle into because I want to be using my creatures for things other than fighting. That it could be something that you use, but Narp with the flex in this is going to be good. So just keep that in mind. The Eater of the Dead could be, if you're purging too much of your opponent's deck, it may be also conducive to them cycling faster. So just keep that in mind with Infernuses. But I mean, you're also going to get rid of some good cards that they're not going to see again. And you could definitely use Eater of the Dead and the Infernus to further propagate that. And you have also things like 3 Fates, which is great because you could get rid of a big card, a big creature, throw that into the discard, and then use your Eater of the Dead to actually purge that card from the game. So a little bit of action there. I mean, I like 3 Fates. There are some big creatures in this deck, though, so you have to be careful. And if you have a card like the Fittest here, making your creatures bigger, you just need to be mindful of the setup for that and leading into that so you don't accidentally hurt yourself. EE on the Fringes. Oh, I like this. The only problem I would say here is the discards I would actually discard. There's not a lot, so that's the one problem with EE is it's going to be used as a kind of last defense in a way. It's like you need to steal and get where you need to go, or you can use it as a finishing move. I've done it before where I had a handful of discards to finish the game, like 5 of them, and you just discard 4 and purge them and steal 4 from your opponent, and that tempo swing and ember swing is so great that you're going to give yourself an advantage. So never mad at this card. Not finished with you. Yeah, these are fantastic in this deck. I mean, Flaxias, you have you get back your Infernuses, obviously, like get rid of those Infernuses like with a Harbinger and then pull them back again, or even Draining Touch potentially your own creature if need be and make that happen. There's just so many ways that I think Not Finished With You in this deck is really powerful. I really, really like it in this one. I would not be sad at all to have it in this deck. It's just a matter of the timing of when it comes, of course. So keep that in mind. I mean, they're a great target in a way for E on the Fringes because you could just discard them and purge that card if you wish. And or if you're going into a mirror match that they have disc, you can just purge your opponent's disc. But I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to purging those if it's early enough, and then you can steal. So it kind of like, even though Not Finished With You gives you an Ember, it's actually also giving you the opportunity to steal one from your opponent, so it creates that greater swing. But I don't know if you're necessarily going to do that all the time. It's going to be very dependent on what's happening. Binding Irons. This card, for me, is probably the greatest candidate to just discard 4E on the Fringes and even purge. As much as 3 Chain slows down your opponent, I'd much rather maybe be using some Ember control in that instance, so I would not be opposed to just getting rid of this card. Okay, next moving on to Brobnar, we have here Ragnarok. So I find this card really interesting. I don't think I've ever played it before, so I'm kind of curious how this is going to work, and I'm really interested to use this in a game because I think there is some potential in this deck for this to be very powerful, to use it as like a burst. Again, the flex with the Narp or Mog Hunter is fantastic. What else do we have here? Oh, then we have Power Fire again, some Ember control. It's going to affect you as well, so this could be timing oriented. It could be really cool because you could actually sacrifice a non-Brobnar creature to lose, and then like after Ragnarok, like you basically play Ragnarok, right? And it says for the remainder of the turn, creatures cannot reap, and you gain 1 Ember whenever friendly creatures fight. End of the turn, destroy each creature. So it won't have any effect on this. So you could then sacrifice another creature you know is going to get destroyed, get to take some opponent from your Ember, or get some opponent, get your, oh my goodness, I can't talk. Have your opponent lose some Ember, and then you do your Ragnarok play and get it back. So if you can be at like 1 or 0, you get some really good value. Gargantua Scrapper, not much to say about it. Tremor I really like. It's going to slow down those dinos, it's going to slow down Star Alliance, so never mad to see that. And then obviously Stiltkin with the Ganger Chieftains. You could essentially play a Ganger on either side and start the game and just start laughing. That's really fun. Narp is Narp. There's some things in this deck that can be useful with Narp. Then of course we have Mog Hunter, deals 2 damage to a flying creature. It's got a big body, and I mean, with Ire Staff and the Fittest, you have basically ways of creating this to be maybe work well with a flex. I forgot to mention that. The Ire Staff and the flex are going to come into play, and the Fittest. And of course, speak of the devil, we have the Ire Staff. I really like this card. I really like to use it on creatures like Grok, where you're going to want to be fighting, and you're going to get to make it a little bit bigger. So that makes it basically have the ability to be a little bit stronger and take a little more damage and have your opponent lose a little more Ember. So again, that leads us into Grok perfectly. And lastly, we have the Double Ganger Chieftain. Yeah, this card is fantastic on so many levels. I'd want to use it potentially for as a trigger for Harbinger. You could have Harbinger fight into something right away and wipe the board and put yourself in a good position, and then you could play some other things like a Stiltkin Ganger afterwards to get to reap. So there's a lot of ways you can use the Gangers, I think, in this deck in a popular way, in a powerful way. And I have to say, I really like Ganger Chieftain as a card in general. I think it's one of the best Brobnar cards, in my opinion. So that does it for this deck. I'm not sure how it would play. I think there's a lot of really cool things here, though. And I will say that the deck, and when you play Sealed, I think are good strategies in your very first time playing, is you're going to feel very unfamiliar with things. And you don't have the time to break down like I just did, because this was like 10 minutes. You're not going to have that. Is try and just play cards out of your hand. Try not to get too finicky with combos and hold things. Just see how your deck runs and try and cycle as fast as possible on your first time playing it. I think you'll have a lot more success moving forward, because you'll start to see things come together and discover these little things that we discussed right now more easily. So as always, everyone, may your Ember never be stolen and you forge your keys promptly. Have a good one.